The Valdrine Council convened in their sterile chamber, their crystalline forms pulsing with satisfied luminescence. After 3 centuries of research, they had finally succeeded. "The weapon is complete," announced High Researcher Kethrix, his voice resonating through the quantum field that connected all Valdrine minds. "We have synthesized the perfect toxin, C2H5OH in its purest form. No known species in the galaxy can survive exposure to this compound." The Council's collective consciousness hummed with approval. They had tested it on 743 different species. The results were universally catastrophic. The toxin attacked neural pathways, disrupted cellular function, impaired motor control, and caused complete system failure in every organism they had studied. Even in minute quantities, it proved lethal within hours. "The humans have become too ambitious," Kethrix continued. "They expand too rapidly, question too much, refuse to acknowledge their place in the galactic hierarchy. This toxin will end their expansion without direct conflict. We shall introduce it into their trade routes disguised as a gift, a rare compound for research purposes." The plan was elegant. The Valdrine had carefully packaged the toxin in attractive containers, labeled it as a cultural exchange specimen, and sent it through diplomatic channels to 17 different human colonies. Then they waited. 3 months passed before the first reports reached the Valdrine monitoring stations. Kethrix accessed the surveillance data from the human colony on Kepler 442b, expecting to see devastation, evacuation, and panic. Instead, he witnessed something that defied all logic. Humans were voluntarily consuming the toxin. "This cannot be correct," Kethrix transmitted to his fellow researchers. "Check the data streams again. There must be an error." But there was no error. The surveillance footage was clear. Humans had not only discovered the toxin, but had begun manufacturing it themselves in massive quantities. They had built entire facilities dedicated to producing variations of the compound. They mixed it with fruit extracts, grains, and vegetation, creating thousands of different versions. And then, most horrifying of all, they drank it. Deliberately, repeatedly, enthusiastically. "Observe Colony 7, urged junior researcher Vex Neal, projecting a live feed onto the central display. "They are gathering in large groups specifically to consume the toxin together." The council watched in stunned silence as hundreds of humans congregated in establishments they called bars, and Kibran they poured the toxin into vessels and raised them in coordinated gestures before drinking. They laughed, they sang. They appeared to be celebrating. Their neural pathways should be destroyed, Kethrix muttered, running calculations through his consciousness. Their motor functions should be failing. They should be experiencing complete system shutdown. They are experiencing motor impairment, Vexenil noted, highlighting one particular human who was walking in an erratic pattern. But they find it amusing. They are laughing about it. Over the following weeks, the Valdrine researchers became obsessed with understanding this impossible phenomenon. They intercepted human communications and discovered an entire lexicon devoted to the toxin consumption. Getting drunk, having a good time, liquid courage, social lubricant. The humans had given the toxin hundreds of names: alcohol, booze, spirits, hooch, moonshine. They had created elaborate cultural rituals around its consumption. They aged it in wooden barrels, fermented it in caves, distilled it in copper pots, and flavored it with everything from juniper berries to agave plants. "Look at this," transmitted Vexnil, sharing a data packet. "They have competitions to see who can consume the most toxin without losing consciousness. They call it drinking games." "Impossible," Kethrix responded. "The Thraxians died after 0.5 milliliters. The Zorganites experienced complete neural collapse at 0.3 milliliters. These humans are consuming hundreds of milliliters in a single sitting." But the evidence was irrefutable. Not only could humans survive the toxin, but they had been consuming it for thousands of years, long before they even achieved spaceflight. Archaeological data showed humans had been deliberately creating and drinking alcohol for over 10,000 years of their civilization. The most disturbing discovery came when the Valdrine accessed human medical databases. Human physicians didn't even classify moderate alcohol consumption as particularly dangerous. They had warnings, certainly, but humans generally recovered from exposure within hours. Their livers, a remarkable organic filtration system, processed and eliminated the toxin naturally. They have evolved a specific enzyme, Vexenil reported, his crystalline form flickering with disbelief. Alcohol dehydrogenase. Their bodies are specifically adapted to metabolize our ultimate weapon. Kethrix accessed the human internet, that chaotic repository of human knowledge and absurdity. What he found there shattered his understanding of the species entirely. Humans had entire industries devoted to alcohol. They had sommeliers who dedicated their lives to studying wine. They had brewmasters who crafted beer with the precision of artists. They had mixologists who combined different alcohols with elaborate techniques and presentations. They wrote songs about drinking. They made films about drinking. They bonded over drinking. Some of their greatest social innovations occurred in establishments dedicated to serving alcohol. "Hi, researcher," Vexenil transmitted urgently. "I have found something you must see." The data packet contained human historical records. Humans had used alcohol for medicine, for religious ceremonies, for celebrations, for mourning, for courage before battle. When they colonized new worlds, they brought alcohol with them, sometimes prioritizing it over other supplies. There was even a human saying, "In wine, there is truth." The Valdrine Council convened once more, their crystalline forms now pulsing with confusion and something approaching fear. "We engineered the perfect toxin," Kethrix announced to the assembly. "We created a compound that should have eliminated the human threat to galactic order. Instead, we have learned a terrifying truth about this species." He paused, his consciousness touching each member of the council. Humans do not merely survive what should kill them. They domesticate it. They culturalize it. They turn weapons into celebrations. This is not a species that can be eliminated through biochemical means. This is a species that drinks poison for fun. The council's luminescence dimmed as the implications settled over them. "Recommendation?" asked the council prime. Kethrix's response was immediate. "Leave them alone. Establish friendly relations. And whatever we do, never ever accept their invitation to drink with them." From that day forward, the Valdrine abandoned all hostile plans toward humanity. They had learned what the rest of the galaxy would eventually discover. Humans were not dangerous because of their weapons or their technology. They were dangerous because nothing, absolutely nothing, could stop them from having a good time.